Fake sign language.
fraud.
The enduring impression of Tuesday.
Bro, like, in all honesty, though, like, you said fake sign language. What if this dude's just signing in African-American vernacular English? I can't even speak today. Huh? Like, did you think of that? Did you think of that? Sounds like you're being a little racist.
Memorial is the performance of the man who was supposed to be signing for the deaf, but communicating nonsense.
Mental illness.
A day after being exposed as a fake, Tamsanhle Janchi hit back at his accusers, blaming his bizarre sign language on schizophrenia.
Hidden police records.
But then serious security questions were raised when the interpreter...
I wonder, how do you become a fake sign language person? Like, I guess it's like they need, I guess it makes sense. Like, I guess it makes sense, but then it doesn't. So, like, they do the interview, and they're like, okay, we need somebody that can sign, right? So they sit down, they do an interview, and they're like, yeah, I can sign. They're like, okay, you're hired. But, like, I would be like, okay, well, test it. But how do you test it? Because if you had somebody that could sign language, you wouldn't need this guy, you know? But to me, it makes sense to, like, hey, let me hire somebody to make sure they do sign language or something. You know what I mean? Like an accredited sign language person.
admitted that he is schizophrenic with a history of violence.
Today's story involves the bizarre case of a sign language interpreter that shocked the world on live TV, as it appeared he didn't even know sign language, yet was being hired for high-profile events. But after being exposed on Twitter, this odd story opened up a
what are you doing? This is so weird. This lighting is bizarre.
rabbit hole that still isn't fully understood a decade later. But today we'll try our best to get to the bottom of this odd tale straight out of South Africa.
Is this Sonic? Is this Sonic the Hedgehog?
Nelson Mandela was a South African politician and civil rights lawyer. He's credited with dismantling his country's system of apartheid, which enforced segregation and discrimination against black people. This meant many heavy sacrifices, including a life sentence in prison for treason. By 1990, however, the status quo began to change. Pardoned by then-President F.W. de Klerk, Mandela was called to negotiate the end of these policies. It took 4 years, but in 1994, the system that had oppressed him was gone for good. Upon his return, the former inmate was hailed as a national hero, and a month later was elected president in their first fully democratic election. Through his inspiring journey, Mandela went on to become a world-renowned icon.
He went on to become... I don't know.
He received more than 250 honors, including the Nobel Peace Prize and U.S. Medal of Freedom. The United Nations even declared a day in his honor. But unfortunately, due to his declining health, his return to politics would be short. The South African figurehead left office in 1999, retiring after only one term. He spent the rest of his years largely out of the public eye. And on December 5th, 2013, the civil rights leader quietly passed away in his home at the age of 95. Following his death, South Africa held 10 days of national mourning. The government also arranged for an official memorial service to occur on the 10th. It was held at the First National Bank Stadium in Johannesburg, with a capacity of 95,000 people. They invited leaders from across the globe to pay their respects in person. In recognition of his lifelong accomplishments, they did. The memorial went on to become the largest gathering of foreign leaders in history.
I'm sorry, every time someone says become now, I just can't. I'm like a child.
Attendance were representatives from approximately 190 different countries. This included 4 US presidents and 4 British prime ministers.
And one big fucking loser. One big fucking loser. Fuck you, Hillary Clinton, you bitch. I'm just kidding. This big fucking loser. You can't even see on the screen. You can't even see that I put my mouse there. This one. You know what I'm talking about. That's the joke.
US presidents and 4 British prime ministers. The ceremony was also televised to an estimated 2 billion concurrent viewers.
Whoa.
Naturally, such an event required accommodations for the disabled. To compensate, South African officials hired a sign language interpreter. He was to stand...
Oh, okay. That's how it happened. No offense. Didn't this happen in America too, though? Didn't we fuck this up too?
And alongside the world leaders and translate their eulogies. As speeches were heard, most believed the memorial to be going smoothly, but outrage swelled amongst a small group that were baffled by what was occurring on the screen in plain sight.
So
one of those outraged
stupid.
was Wilma Newhout, the
What an
first deaf
asshole. What a
woman
piece of
elected
fucking
into the
shit
South
garbage.
African parliament. During the ceremony, she became infuriated.
She became?
And began venting on Twitter. He cannot sign, she wrote. Before continuing, shame on this so-called interpreter on the stage. What is he signing? He knows that the deaf cannot vocally boo him off.
Oh my
Shame
God.
on him.
I didn't even think of it like that. I know that's so weird, but I didn't even think like, yeah, no, what are they gonna do? Yell at him? That's so fucked up. I'm sorry, but they can't do shit. He's just doing that, and they're just like, what the fuck did we do? What are they going to do? They can't even put subtitles on the screen. It's terrible. They can't do shit.
In the replies, others echoed her sentiment. Please get him off. This is an embarrassment. He's just moving his arms to try to look busy. Unfortunately, their complaints weren't heard until it was far too late.
Wow.
It was only after the memorial's conclusion that reports surfaced revealing the interpreter to be an unmistakable fraud. The next day, the Deaf Federation of South Africa issued a statement denouncing the man who stood next to Barack Obama. They described his movements as unintelligible.
Yeah, they should. Violently signs. Yeah, exactly. You have to boo at him. Boo! But you have to like, I don't. How do you boo in sign language? Like this. Get him off the stage, you know?
And a mockery. You see, signing is much more than just handshapes. It involves facial expressions and other integral body languages. Though it varies between countries,
What, does it involve facial expressions? I thought it was just hand signs, but okay.
even a cursory glance can prove these elements were missing. Instead, an associate of the org recalled it was childish hand gestures and clapping, as if he'd never learned a word of sign language in his life. But if this interpreter couldn't sign, why was he up on...
Hey, thank you so much for the gift sub, brother.
Zero gifted a tier 1 sub to Elizabeth
so fucked
Bloom. They have
Stage.
given 3 gift
Why didn't
subs in the channel.
Or Pogger.
they stop him? And most important...
Maybe he was just trying. Yeah, maybe he was just trying to do like Naruto hand signs. He was just trying to like Sasuke, you know.
Importantly, did he really believe no one would notice? All these questions and more would soon be answered as the internet began to gawk at the tale of the fake sign language interpreter. We'll learn more about this after a brief word from our sponsor. Did you know that 2 out of 3 guys will experience hair loss by the time they're 35?
Oh, I never knew. I never knew.
Thankfully, Keeps can help with problem that preserves
I'm triggered right now.
Story of the
I'm
man
triggered.
restored. That's keeps.com/.
I'm triggered.
The story of the man pretending to be a sign language interpreter soon spread like wildfire across the web, with the world in awe that some...
Imagine something spread like wild water. Just think about that for a minute. Let's really think about that for a minute. That would be crazy. And you know it. It'd be something. That would be something else, you know? Let me see if this is too far down.
Someone would pull such a blatant stunt on a global stage. A unifying moment was turned into one of national embarrassment, as the South African government struggled to explain itself. Many questioned how someone so incompetent passed the security checks of such a high-profile gig. Others wondered about the man's intentions, speculating if it was a prank. Up until this point, the man's identity remained a mystery to the public. This made it far more difficult to discern who was at fault. Thankfully, the imposter revealed himself to the media the next day. But in a surprise twist, the interview only raised more questions than answers. On December 12th, 2013,
the imposter admitted that he was sus. The imposter was sus. Is this gonna reach now? Are you fucking kidding me? Oh, yeah, it does.
The Associated Press published a 45-minute conversation with a faux interpreter, a 35-year-old named Tomsenka Yankee. As mentioned before, most people expected him to be a knowing fraud or prankster. Instead, his explanations had a complete disconnect from reality. Mr. Yankee claimed to have no recollection of signing, even in light of footage. Rather, he prescribed different meanings to them altogether. He explained that during the memorial, he began to hear voices before witnessing angels enter the stadium. This put him under duress, and out of desperation, attempted to dissuade them with the motions we saw on stage.
Wow. That's actually incredible. So this guy saved our lives, and we don't even believe him. So this guy saved us from getting killed, and we're giving him this much shit? That's horrible. He saved us from fucking demons, bro. Come on.
It turns out, Yankee was a diagnosed schizophrenic, to the point that he is legally considered disabled. In fact, he was due for a check-in the very day of the ceremony, which could have had him institutionalized.
He wasn't kidding?
The interview pertains to his delusions, some legitimate information did surface. The man at one point alludes to having a violent past. When asked to elaborate, however, he refused. This discrepancy would be clarified in later reports investigating his background. Between 1994 and 1998, Yankee was charged with crimes ranging from theft to housebreaking. While sentenced to 3 years in prison, most of the charges were dropped as he was deemed mentally unfit to stand trial. In 2003, the man was arrested again on more severe charges. This time, he was accused of murder, attempted murder, and kidnapping. Bizarrely, the conclusion of this case is unknown. An investigation by the ENCA found the court files empty and were refused an answer from officials. They noted the case was finalized in November of 2006. Coincidentally, the same year he was forcibly institutionalized for 18 months. Though the schizophrenic claimed to have not intentionally mimicked sign language, many remained unconvinced. In a follow-up radio interview, he contradicted many of his claims.
Absolutely. What I've been doing, I think that I've been a champion of sign language, as I'm saying that, I've interpreted in many big events, not only the event that is in question now.
In an insane twist, it appears the funeral wasn't a one-off incident. He'd worked as a so-called interpreter for years, spotted on camera signing at several other prestigious events. While it would be easy to attribute his actions to delusion, there is evidence that implicates him as a knowing fraud. Upon his release from prison, Yankee began working in the justice system. He labored as an interpreter for the magistrate's court. Staff complained of the man constantly, leading him to hold a coworker hostage using a brick. In 2011, he was put under investigation for falsely claiming to have done 1.5 million rands of translation work. This is the equivalent of over $100,000 USD. The outcome was once again not made public, though he was removed from the position. Between his self-praise and documented history of being
why isn't this dude getting fired? I don't understand. How's he getting so many chances? What the fuck? This doesn't even make sense.
Criminal, many began to question if he actually knew sign language at all. However, other facts...
Oh, really? This is where they began? I think I began when he was just going, like, doing fucking crazy-ass shit. Oh, I just lost because I'm not paying enough attention. Fuck me in the ass.
Seemed to indicate he was the one being taken advantage of. After all, someone knowingly hired him for the memorial. As it turns out, Yankee was contracted to the event by a company named SA Interpreters, who seemed to exploit the disabled man. He was paid only 800 rands a day, half the wage of their other employees. This is the equivalent to just $54. The South African deputy for disabled people also defended him. She revealed that he was certified to sign and did in fact attend a school for the deaf. But several guidelines that day weren't being followed.
Bro, I need to level up my Dartling gunner, okay? That's all I'm trying to set. That's what I was trying to do. Okay, that's what I'm trying to do. It was just about getting it on the field, okay?
Ordinarily, deaf interpreters are switched every 20 minutes to maintain concentration.
Really?
Yankee was on stage the entire event, which lasted over 4 hours. In this position, almost any interpreter...
They only got to work for 20 minutes? Shit.
Would have failed. Because of this, she argued it was not truly his mistake, but rather the company that procured him. In response, the directors of SA Interpreters quietly resigned, with the departure only made public a month later. In the end, the South African government admitted their mistake, stating that they had failed to conduct a proper background check on Yankee. However, it seems that no one was truly held accountable for the ordeal. To this day, it's unclear how conscious Yankee was of his deception, amongst other mysteries regarding his background. Yet just as he had before, he once again managed to escape any serious long-term consequences. So there you have the story.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and another special shout out to all my Patreon and Twitch subs. If you'd like to support this channel further than you already have by just watching the video alone, go down to the links below where you can sub on my Patreon, which will allow you to get your name on this beautiful black wall. Or you can go to the Twitch page and you can actually use a free Amazon Prime sub, if you have Amazon Prime, to subscribe. Thank you very much, guys. Take care.